Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dust 2, the weekly show we've got going on here centered around North American MDL scene. I'm here joined by Joe Cardali and Diego Fridas. Um, Kicking things off here, do you all want to talk about last week of MDL? What's going on there? I first want to start off because we got Diego with us talking about the Whalers taking on Team One.
It was a good matchup. We respect teams, and I know what you're gonna say after this as far as the scoreline goes. Team One's a dangerous team. They got a bunch of really good aimers,
Mhm.
but I think what's coming down as far as the matchup that we've had, obviously with IEM, and then this matchup last week with MDL, is we know how each other play.
Yeah.
We've been competing against each other for months now, like if not the whole year.
Yeah.
Some more changes on our roster on our side than theirs, but nothing much has changed on our end and their end as far as the play or the style of play from each team. So glad we got that win.
Yeah.
Remain undefeated in MDL, and still got a few matches to go, but we want to hold that first place going into playoffs, where I think ultimately you'll probably face Team One in the end.
Yeah, yeah. I have a good idea of what the finalists are gonna look like.
Potentially,
Yeah, that's
things
true.
can happen.
I'd be shocked if I didn't see you all in the finals with Team One.
Listen, if we can 2-0 Furia, anything
Yeah,
can happen. Anything.
yeah,
So
that's
we'll,
true.
we'll leave it at that.
Well, I mean,
Oh,
it's interesting, right? Because like obviously Whalers have had a great season, so congrats Diego
yeah,
Thank
to
you.
you guys. But Team One are like a very interesting team in that they were supposed to be the Furia before Furia was even on the map, right?
True.
Like Furia like were blips on the radar, and then they came to North America and completely leapfrogged Team One, who have been here for quite a while at this point.
hmm
With a lot of changes, of course. Um, so if Team One are gonna like really step up and prove it, this is probably the season they have to do it. Otherwise, like, can they really justify remaining here? We'll see.
Yeah, it's a good point too. Like I think a lot of people forget that they and for a team that has been experienced in the pro circuit, not just even pro league, Team One has experience in a lot of the ESL and DreamHack events outside of NA. The crazy, or not the crazy thing, but just the unfortunate thing on their end is just the amount of players that they've swapped out in the past year and a half to 2 years. Obviously, it hasn't worked out. I think they were more successful in their previous iteration of their lineups, with Bit leading their whole team, but personalities and team chemistry and stuff like that, that all comes into play. But you never know, kind of a thing. Again, just the result of IEM for us. We certainly on that high still, but I think it was finally just our platform to be able to kind of prove our ourselves, and all the credit to the players. I think um, DJ and Pone being our original of the first team that we signed December last year, but ever since Ben has shown up into the lineup and come into the lineup, they've just been policed. And then once we got Joe Munster, and Munster for you guys, just call him by his name, Joe. Joe as well
It's
on
a good
top of
name.
that. He makes himself all the time. It's
yeah,
too funny. But the team really has this tier S environment with the team, and it's been about like 4 or 5 months that we've already been scrimmaging with the top teams here in NA. It's just IEM was finally our first platform, and to be able to kind of just display our skill set, being able to obviously playing MDL and all the other cash cups and all the other smaller events, the mythic cups and stuff like that. Respectfully so, I think there's definitely stepping stones going through those. But coming into IEM, knowing that there's these top teams, you want to put on your A game, and us even kind of extending ourselves in putting our best foot forward even further, because we didn't go into that event with our full lineup.
yeah,
We played with Boo and not Be Wills. It still came out great. So Yeah, man, MDL's been great. I think it just shows the consistency of the team because last year we finished 16-2, and we have a chance to potentially go undefeated this season.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's been a great season. But as far as the match the team won, expected, not expected, expected. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Moving on a little bit from that specific match on to a couple of weird upsets that happened last week. Um, Rugrats with their new roster of Infinite. I don't know if you've seen their new roster, and they're
Mm.
got a pretty sick iteration now of Infinite. Bang, who was like from X Recon 5, who was one of their best players, and then they added Cobra as well. And all of a sudden, they've like popped up on my radar again as one of the teams that can possibly, if they even make it to playoffs, as I think they're still actually not in the top 8 at the moment. But I think at towards the end of the season with this new lineup, they should be able to like get their way in there, no doubt. But they took down Rebirth, who's not one of the best teams currently in the top 8 for MDL, but they're up there. They've got a 6-4 record, and they went 3-0 on them the other day, and I feel like that was just like a good sign for that roster.
Both of like the rosters you mentioned there, both Rugrats and both Rugrats and Rebirth have been dealing with like a lot of roster instability, to say the least,
Yeah.
recently. Rebirth were participating in the IEM New York qualifiers. They added Sneaky. Four pack was like debatably able to participate in matches. So neither of these teams, and obviously Rugrats just like completely overhauled
Yeah.
their roster, which they say is a move towards taking this season more seriously and other events more
Hmm.
seriously. Um, but I mean, you look at that Rugrats roster and like Infinite as like the last surviving Soul Patrol member, still trying to make a go of it in
Yeah.
CS. Like he's going to be an asset to any
Oh
team
yeah.
that that has him. So I mean, his presence on any lineup alone pretty much makes them like a noteworthy
Yeah.
roster to think about.
Yeah, a good thing to keep in mind as well with some of these teams is even though they've gone through changes, I don't think any team has been off like any worse. And something that's really good to pay attention with these teams is they're really great pug players and pug teams.
Yeah.
Um, and that's not taking anything away from them. That's not putting them down or bashing them. To the utmost respect to all of them, because even when we play them, we know that you can't sleep on these guys. They know how to
Hmm.
get rounds, and I think that's great. Working off of that and then being able to create some solid strats and setups well with these players. They can be contenders again. MDL as far as an NA. Even though everybody's saying NA is dead and stuff like that, I think we've proved very well that it's not dead, and there's still competition here
Hmm.
in United States or in NA. There still is in MDL. So
Hmm.
hats off to them. Like again, it's something that you got to keep these guys on your radar. You have to pay attention. But as far as the upset goes, I'm not surprised. I think they did a very good job, and it's about putting your head down and just grinding out through it. Like you're always
Hmm.
going to go through a little bit of that early stages of just adjusting to new players and such. So good on them for that win
Yeah.
or those
Next
wins.
question that I have for Rugrats is like with the exit of Xander, who has proven himself to be at least competent IGL, right?
Hmm.
Getting the that multiple rosters to the ESEA MDL Global Challenge, right? And now he's obviously not on the roster, and Infinite will be taking those reins over. Um, that for me is the biggest question. No
Yeah.
question that the players on Rugrats are individually very decent players.
Yeah. I'm wondering who's going to be leading them. Do you have any idea? Because it seems like Cobra's on the op. You've got a lot of just like really good aimers. Like I feel like they are kind of lacking that leader, especially with Xander's
Yeah,
departure.
as far as we've been told, it is Infinite that will
Okay.
be leading that team with Fang as like the secondary
Gotcha.
caller.
Okay. Yeah. I mean that kind of gives me a lot more confidence in them, though. I feel like Infinite has a lot of experience with the previous teams. But
And
oh
can't sleep on a guy like Mata either.
yeah,
Like
that's true as well.
he's a great player. Like I know that we've been watching him, and we had been watching him when we were making some roster changes early in the year. He's great players. Again, they know what they're doing. It's just about getting a little bit more consistent, and getting into that role, into that just that whole pattern of the team and stuff. I think they're going to be right back where they were as far as being a competitive team. Just at
Mhm.
least the Rugrats team name.
Yeah.
It's a lot of different players, but they're up there.
Yeah, yeah. I'm excited to see their potential. But then, like, as soon as that happened, like, as soon as I got really pumped up, they lost to Incognito, which is a team that's, kind of looked like they've found their footing. They had so many roster changes. Like this season's kind of been so scrappy with the teams and all of the moves. But they picked up Braun, and I feel like they kind of finally found their footing, especially as they move Viz to the op role. He's been having insane numbers so far, and so I understand how Rugrats could lose, but I feel like, you know, with at least Braun having a sick game, I guess that makes more sense. They didn't have to rely on Viz, but I don't know. I feel like that was kind of a weird result. But I mean, that's all I've got for like last week's matches.
I'm giving Diego the opportunity to defer
Okay.
to Diego.
No, so
Um,
I'll say as far as oh my goodness, Incognito goes, just finding some consistency. It's
Mhm.
again, it's the whole thing where a lot of teams have changed out players this season,
Yeah.
and it's something that I'll even say. It's like shame on me for mentioning Overwatch or anything, but San Francisco Shock is one of the only teams to like stay consistent with their players throughout 2 or 3 seasons that it's been, and they're dominating. So it kind of it's a proven method that when you
Yeah.
have teams that are players that stick around and play together for a longer period of time, you're usually going to have more success out of that. When you don't have a lot of success off of veteran players that have been playing for a year plus together, that's where like maybe management and coaching wise you're having some problems, or just you're being too emotional with that lineup and
Mhm.
not wanting to move players around. So sometimes some of these players just kind of need to stick it out, because yes, you're going to have moments where you're just going to get beat up on. I'm going to use my team as the example. How many times did we face Chaos, Triumph, and
Yeah.
Swole Patrol in many events this early on this year, and they were just slightly better than us. So once we get that opportunity and go forward, I think that's going to be what these teams are going to experience as well. So just get a little bit more time.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like time is definitely going to be something good for Incognito.
Indeed.
Um, Moving on. I kind of want to stay on the topic of like playoffs because I feel like next week we're gonna get a little better like inkling into what teams are gonna be kind of getting into playoffs. The first match that I want to talk about next week at least is gonna be on the 27th is Secret Club versus Rugrats. I feel like taking on one of the top ish MDL teams. I think Secret Club's currently in the top five, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's even like a little bit underwhelming because they haven't played as many games as other teams have. But I feel like if Rugrats can take down Secret Club, it'll kind of give us a good expectation of where they kind of lie in MDL. As I do think that they're going to be one of the top rosters once they get a little bit more time under their belt.
I think that like I'm a little bit cheating because I'm looking ahead to our show notes here, but I think a lot of the teams that we're going to talk about here, they've shown themselves to be vulnerable not just to MDL level competition, but also to lower
Yeah,
competition. We've had a preponderance of FPL cups and ESEA cash cups recently, and they have not been without upsets
yeah,
and advanced teams kind of taking some MDL scalps. So there is no team in MDL currently that is not susceptible to that happening to them.
yeah,
So especially when you're talking about inter MDL matches, it really is anyone's game, I feel like.
Yeah, like so the way that I see it is just looking at the bottom bottom half of the league at this, or the bottom of the league first. So teams that are currently in potential relegation right now. So third, Impact, Eclipse, Imperium, and Kinship. So like, and they are the teams that are basically like you're going to end on that bottom portion of the league. But in that middle portion where Joe is talking about, so it's like Recon 5 or X Recon 5, Virio, Incognito, Explorace, Rugrats, RBG. I'm going to end it there.
Okay.
Actually, I'll go one more. Rebirth and Russian. Hold on. Rebirth and Russian Canadians from sixth place to about
13th
10th
place.
to
Yeah.
about 10th
Yeah.
place, maybe 11th. You can see a lot of movement going on the next week and a half with these remaining matches of the season going on, because like Joe said, there have been a slew of upsets, and it's not just with the lower, teams in MDL, but it's been teams that are just like middle rung as well. So like when you're having and Pain upsetting,
Yeah.
credit to them because they're amazing teams, and they should be in MDL already.
Right.
You want to be defending your place here in MDL, especially with everything that's going on with NA Pro or Pro NACS being dead or whatnot. You want to be in MDL right now. Like, it's such a good opportunity. So yeah, it's kind of sad that there's all these upsets, but for me, it makes it a little bit more exciting because it's going to make it more competitive, and people are going to cry more. So it usually gets rid of just people that you really don't want to deal with, and players that want to stick around will stick around, and players that
Right.
don't, they will leave because they can't handle just one upset. We dealt a whole season losing to Chaos and Triumph. So like,
Yeah.
just go on and get through it, kind of a thing. So yeah, it's gonna be pretty crazy to see this next week and a half with all these final matches. But you're gonna see a lot of movement from sixth place to 10th, 11th
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
There'll
That's what
probably
I'm
be a lot of movement
expecting.
in there.
I'm
Yeah.
like wondering what RBG's prospects are in that like sort of ring, but I'll let you. What were you saying, Joe?
Well, I was going to say to your earlier point about how Secret Club have played less matches than some of the other teams that find themselves in the top. You're going to want to look to these teams that have played matches in the amounts of 10, 11, right, as teams that are not only capable of getting wins, but also really have the amount of matches left where those wins can be
Yeah.
impactful to where they wind up in the final standings.
That's true as well. Yeah, because if you look at like Russian Canadians and Rebirth, who have only played 10, RBG has played 12, so it's going to be a little bit. I think it's going to be a struggle for them to keep themselves like their head above water. That's why I mentioned it earlier, but I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be able to hold on to get into playoffs.
I think if you're RBG though, I think it's like a very respectable season for you to
Yeah,
just remain in the league, right?
right.
It's not like they made it to MDL and are getting thrown right out the door on their asses.
Yeah,
They've shown that they can hang with the established players.
yeah,
So I mean, I think that's um, we talked a lot earlier before we started recording, Diego, about like the long-term vision and the repeatability and
Mhm.
stuff like that, right? And I hope that that is something that the RBG organization is kind of
yeah,
valuing in that same way.
yeah. I mean,
And look,
you go
sorry to
ahead.
cut you off. So,
No, no, you're
and
good.
just look, and just looking at their schedule, it's like they're a good matchup for them is going to be Mythic coming up.
Yeah,
As some of their remaining matches, so they could potentially still, again, in that movement of mid tier MDL, they could potentially squeeze in from all the matches that they have left because they're a pretty strong team.
right.
Like they have good core,
Yeah,
and they have great fundamentals. So you could see them potentially sneaking in just for how their final matches kind of have been scheduled out to be. So
yeah,
yeah, it's I hope they do, because again, it's commendable. Just middle tier first season MDL,
yeah.
that's not a problem. I think, again, maybe setting unrealistic goals coming in, you might upset yourself a little bit more, put a little bit too much pressure
Hmm.
on yourself and your team. Saying, "Oh, our first year we got to make playoffs."
Yeah,
Like, first year, you're probably gonna have a lot of adjustments
right.
in the league itself because it is different. But hats off to them if they can go ahead and make that playoff run. Great. Playoffs is a whole other game. Just knowing from experience from last year, you know 16-2, and then us, losing, was it first or second round? I forget whatever. Losing in playoffs, period. Setting that right expectation. So for a lot of these teams, continuing and not, having to fight your way back in through relegation, that's great. Especially in your first year, and especially with all the teams that got bumped up because of how many teams left MDL at the beginning of the season. So there's going to be movement just because that's just how it happens. That's how you have the format with a lower and upper division. So it's going to be good seeing who's going to keep it competitive and fight for it.
Yeah. I mean, talking a little bit more on relegation. I don't know if you've seen the ESCA post about it. I'm sure the Whalers aren't too interested in relegation. They're not gonna have to worry about that. But as for like other teams,
enlighten me.
it's gonna have one invite spot. I imagine that's gonna be reserved for Pain.
Mhm.
So
Likely.
so Pain is gonna have an opportunity to make themselves like basically go from open to MDL. As like didn't have that opportunity, but is also obviously gonna have that opportunity as well, to fight their way into MDL. So I feel like the competition, like the bottom four teams. I don't know. I think it's still up in the air if Soul Patrol is going to be considered uh, a bottom four team. I'm not certain on that, but like
I think they're automatically out. So I think it is just the bottom four, Kinship, or currently the way
so
it
it'll be
stands.
Third Impact through Kinship, and Eclipse and Imperium in the
Yes.
middle. Okay, at
Correct.
the
Yeah,
moment.
if the season were to end today, yeah.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
So
mean, they're just like those bottom four teams are going to be battling because it's going to be some serious competition and advanced and of course Payne, who's I mean arguably as good if not better than So it's going to be serious.
yeah,
I
and
mean,
kind of like what I said before, it's like with those relegation matches, like you want to be in MDL right now for
Hmm.
how the CS scene in NA is. You absolutely want to take this opportunity because once we get through this whole, being emo NA CS fans and saying, "Oh, it's dying" and stuff
Right.
like that, where I'm a little sad some of the pro players literally put that out publicly and then
Oh
like within
yeah.
hours after we beat Furia saying that it's
Yeah.
done, like setting this whole scene
Yeah.
into panic for no reason, where me not panicked, people
Hmm.
are just overreacting. It's yes, there are no lands and there hasn't been lands, but like let's be serious, there's been a pandemic going on and it's been sporadic throughout the United
Right.
States. So yes, you want to be in MDL. Those teams that are going to be in relegation matches from advance, you better know that they're gunning for it. They absolutely are going to bring their A game. And when you have a team like Payne, where, oh, it's unfair, they're getting an invite from Open, like, absolutely not. They're a
Mm-mm.
really great
Yeah.
organization. They're massive. Like, for people who don't know League of Legends, like, they're big. They're probably the richest esports organization in South America. So for them to finally say, all right, we're giving up, not that giving up, but like we've done enough here in South America as far as a CS team. It's time to go to NA, which is the next step for many different regions. They absolutely should, and I think they've already proven that with a lot of the events that they've already played here, all the cups and stuff like that. They've upset many teams.
Hmm.
So hats off to it, but yeah, be competitive. And for the teams that are in the bottom right now in MDL, like fight for it, man. Like prove it that your invitation into MDL wasn't just a
Yeah.
one-off invitation. Like show that you can hang and actually back up your talk because there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I could play NA MDL. All right, then let's prove it.
Yeah.
I mean, Cole, again, once again, bring up an interesting point. Like we're talking here, like the fact that Yale will progress from advanced into relegation and or outright win advanced and thereby get the
Yeah.
invite to MDL. We're acting like that's going to happen automatically, but like
That's true.
what if the simulation breaks and does not get that automatic spot, and they have to go through relegation, like do Payne? I guess Payne still get the invite, right? But I mean, we go from a scenario where MDL is immediately getting monumentally stronger next season,
Yeah.
probably to a scenario where a slightly less so, perhaps.
Yeah.
With very
Just
strong
musing.
Brazilian teams.
Very
Like,
strong Brazilian teams.
all right, so let's say simulation breaks, right? If ESL decides to do some crazy shenanigans and say, oh, our pro league spot's not gonna happen, or pro league's not, whatever the heck, because it's
Which would be
ESL,
very
they're gonna.
unlike them, by the way.
Oh yeah, ESL. They would never do something like this. Imagine if ourselves, Team One, remain in MDL with Pain and also coming into the scene. There's 4 spots in your top 5 right there.
Mhm.
Let's put Mythic up there with because they're always keeping competitive
Yeah.
most of the time. And I'm actually, again, I'm surprised depth is as high as they are right
Yeah,
now.
they blow my mind.
But the team
With
that I
a
was
roster
originally,
change too.
Yeah.
with the roster change, and the team that I was keeping my eye on early in the season was Secret Club, which I still think
Yeah.
they are a very competitive team. Like, you can't sleep on them type of
Yeah.
stuff. So it's like, all right, so that's the top 5-6 teams right there. Like, nobody has a chance after that. So, like, be glad that Whalers or Team One are going to be moving into Pro League. Like,
Yeah.
miracle ESL permitting, because depending on how NA Pro scene is doing, what if we both go? Then and Pain are going to dominate MDL at least for 1 or 2 seasons. It's going to happen. So the unfortunate thing is, it's NA MDL. Then United States or NA based teams or NA based orgs, step your game up.
Yeah.
Like, I'm tired of this whole argument, the whole conversation of NA is dead. It's just like, just do better. Stop going to Valorant and just
Right.
freaking just tough through it, man.
Yeah.
I'm knocking on all my wood over here for you, Diego. That someone's not gonna pull up this clip after Whalers go bomb out of playoffs. Do better.
Knocking on all the wood right now. Like, we're good.
Yeah. I mean, I
Right.
would be happy with some stiffer competition in MDL at the moment. I feel like we're gonna get that. I know the same thing was said last season about this season. I think we've seen it with a team like Depth, the move up that they made, and a team like RBG. I was a little bit disappointed with the outcome of Third Impact, because at the time that roster looked really sick. They won advance, obviously, so they beat all of these teams. They were beating a little bit of a different iteration of Depth, but they beat RBG. Like, they had some sick prospects, and that team fell out, of course. For like, if your best player leaves, and of course I think T Connors left soon after. That roster was kind of left in shambles.
Time. Just give it time for a lot of these teams. That's all you need.
Yeah, and I think they'll find a footing. I'm just like, I get all these move ups from advanced were really sick, but we just gotta, like, it's just gonna keep on getting better. I think, like, I really don't understand the idea of MDL, like, or at least North America dying. Like, I'm just seeing nonstop all of these, like, super sick teams. Like, of course, like Pain Gaming, and like, I'm happy that they're gonna be an MDL possibly next season. Tearing it up, because that's just gonna make everyone else better as well. Like,
Yeah, I think the benefit of I know I will for a long time, and I can't speak for future self. I don't know if how close I will following, tier 2, tier 3,
yeah,
NACS, but I know for a fact tier 2 I'm going to be in company along with Pro League or Pro CS tier, because it's super important.
yeah.
It's what I've always kind of built up as far as what we are as the Whalers, and um, keeping relevant, not only just with players, but you'd be surprised of how many pro teams pick up things from lower ranked teams. Teams that aren't in Pro League or MDL. Like,
Mhm.
it happens, especially in EU more than NA. But like, it is something you have to pay attention to. So, like, it, teams need to stay competitive, and I think it's like, for the way that it is currently, like, a lot of people complain, oh, there's too many South American teams in NA. It's like, we need the competition,
Mhm.
and then when it's here, you complain. So it's just like, somebody needs to step up. So if it's not our NA teams and the South America orgs
Right.
playing here in NA, they're doing it, then by all means, as long as the scene is staying competitive, competition is good.
Yeah.
Competition drives you to kind of get better. If it's
Yeah.
not you, it's your teammates, and if you're not in that realm of being a player or a coach, under management and ownership, you're going to expect something out of it, especially if you're not necessarily being driven out of your own scene here in NA, but you want to have your brand, your team being something more of a cornerstone in the scene that you're competing in. So it's going to be pretty interesting. Like the way that it's lining up right now, like I know we're just going to transition into it as well. Is just like the way the playoffs is settling at. Like if we can stay undefeated and claim that first place, great. That's just going to put Team One right opposite bracket to us in
Yeah.
second place. And then the way that it currently stands, or is it? I had it up here a second ago. Like we pretend that like if season ends today, we'd be getting RBG
Hmm.
in eighth place.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a little bit scary.
like Mythic being in third place again, it puts them up in contention. So they're going to be a second round face off against potentially Team One or us, depending on how the brackets goes. Like that's great. The way the competition lines up, I still think the competition is very far, like for us as the Whalers and Team One. And it's going to be a really great competitive finals. I think I
Yeah.
don't see us going down at all. I also don't see Team One falling to anybody.
Yeah.
But you could potentially see some upsets from that fourth place to eighth place,
Oh
or
yeah.
not eighth place because from fourth place to sixth place, 4 5 6.
Yeah.
I forget whatever four teams face off against each other there. Third to six. My bad, I can't count. So it's gonna be pretty interesting. But I'm very biased because I'm an owner of the Whalers. So and it's what you guys think there as well.
I think it looks good. The only thing like that does have like it's gonna make things really interesting and shake things up a lot is the current position of Regrets, like having such a slow start to the season, and now I feel like they're one of the stronger rosters all of the sudden. So
Mhm.
if they get their way, even if it's like barely, if they get like a 7 or 8 seed, someone's gonna have to like either you or Team One is gonna have to play them first. I mean, they have a possibility of course, rising up to like a 6 or a 5th because they're not too far spread out. I would argue that
Right.
probably 6. I think Secret Club and above, with their current records of being like 8-3, are gonna kind of stay
Mhm.
a little bit steady, but like Russian Canadians, Rebirth, and RPG, all 3 of those positions are going to be fought like tooth and nail between those teams. So, and of course, Rugrats is just hot on their tail.
Yeah,
I think
Rugrats for me. Oh, sorry.
no, I was just gonna say, I think numerically speaking, like I think all from fifth place to 10th place, you can see movement between those teams. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I was going to say for me, Rugrats are the X factor looking at these standings right now. We've already talked about how they've made changes that are potentially make them pretty scary going forward. And like to your point, if they can just eke their way into playoffs, then it's a whole new season starting right there, and they can absolutely tear through the bracket as a lower seed. If things go their way.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree with that. But I mean, do you guys have anything else to say on at least MDL before we kind of transition into Cash Cups?
I
I'm
think we're
Let's
kind
go
of
Whalers.
blowing your whole outline apart with our excessive talking. So
no,
make
no, it's
us force
perfect.
us along.
The outline is just for the some talking points. They're all good. Yeah, I kind of want to transition into Dust 2 Cash Cup, of course, hosted by yours truly.
And admin by yours truly,
Oh, really?
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for a lot of
Oh
people.
boy. Yeah, I can imagine the stress that goes into that. But I mean, you guys did a better job than the 1 2 weeks ago, I hear. So at least you got that going for us. So was it the CSAPPA or something? No, that's not it.
It was either the Golden League or the NACCS, I believe.
Yeah, the
And probably
NACCS.
and that's not even true. I mean, we had our own issues.
Oh yeah.
Luckily they transpired before kind of the ending of the
Yeah.
bracket, and we were able to mitigate some issues, but we were certainly not perfect. So I'll leave that there.
That's good. That's good to humble. But I ended 2-0 for Triumph. I think a little bit expected. Triumph as kind of the team that is literally in tier above everyone else. Had some really good runs by some advanced teams though, with what was it? Secret Club dropping to
Kamehameha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, was that? Oh man, I'm gonna get
You're
flamed
probably
for
too
that.
young to know Dragon Ball, right? Yeah.
I played a little bit when I was a kid, but I'd never seen the show. And then Get 5 taking down Rebirth, which I don't understand what goes on. Is it advanced teams and below playing to a level that they typically can't get to, or I don't know. It's really bizarre to see like these upsets sometimes.
What I can kind of input on that is, and it's not set an excuse now on a VOD, so we can go back to it later.
Yeah.
But you do have instances where you don't know, like, it's not that you don't know how to play against a lower ranked team, but it's just like some players that are lower ranked, they're going to do something that is very unexpected.
Yeah.
All right, like you throw a smoke down on Connector Mirage, like it is not smart to push that smoke as a terrorist.
Don't
All right,
tell
I'm
me
gonna be
that.
very honest with you. If you're one of those players that do that, the probability rate, and you can pull up statistics on this, and that's how players in MDL and coaches and analysts in MDL and Pro League do. The statistical rate for you to be successful out of that smoke is like 0.1%, like to the 99.9% of you staying behind the smoke and just waiting it out.
Yeah.
So a lot of these teams and a lot of these players, they're going to do a lot of stuff that is very unexpected. When you're an MDL team playing with this a certain type of meta, and you're faced with this meta that is very, not very low rank, but you're just not used to it. And vice versa. A lot of these teams that are in advanced that play against the MDL teams, like they're looking at it like this is my major. Like I'm gonna do absolutely everything, every boost,
Right. Yeah.
every
That's true.
smoke. I saw this on Reddit 5 minutes before the match. I'm gonna do it. Like they're gonna pull out all the stops, and sometimes it happens. So like the one that I'm looking at on from the Dust 2 Cash Cup is the Rebirth Get 5 upset, right? So Get 5 moved on from that one, where it's like, all right, Rebirth not having a great run, but it's fine. Again, they have experience, but like Get 5 coming into that match, it's like, all right, guys, this is it. If we're gonna continue next week or the week after that, we gotta win this one, and they win. So again, not calling them bad or any team in advance that pulls an upset on an MDL team bad or anything like that. Time. It's like the theme of mine today.
Yeah.
Give it time, and again, just your approach may be different in some.
Yeah, I mean, like, and not to, I mean, yes, obviously, like, that Rebirth Get 5 upset was not expected. But I mean, like, you had Chudy on Get 5, you had Pony of RPG, who we talked about earlier, you
Oh.
had Dangle, player with MBL experience. Like, it's not like these were complete no-name
Yeah.
people, right? And again, like to our earlier point, like MDL right now, that middle of the pack, anybody's game when you show up. Like these players are good. They're aimers. They're deadly. They can really make you regret a lot of decisions if they want to. But I'm gonna take the opportunity to nerd out on people here about the stuff that gets me excited. I mean, pain, triumph, yeah, making it to the top three. I mean, I think anyone would have had those three teams in the semis here. Obviously, Get 5 are the odd men out, but the Russian Canadians Revenant round of 16 match
Yeah.
is really what I like, right? Because if you really drill down to what happened there, Russian Canadians poach Saturn from Revenant, who is like supposed to be their star player who made Russian Canadians like sweat in a best of three match like a week beforehand. Revenant then add Florgy, who has gotten removed from depth in MDL earlier in the
Yeah.
season, and then Revenant just like bang out Russian Canadians, which like that's not supposed to happen when you take a team's best player. They're not supposed to beat you
Yeah.
by a factor of 400%. So I mean that's what I really love, and that's what you get in like this BO1 format that can happen. I gotta breathe now.
No. I think we're having some trouble here in Diego. Get stomped by a team that they stole their player from, and
Yep.
now Revenant's picking up depth with Florgy, which is
Yep.
a really good pickup for them. I think it's a huge win. That makes me really excited for Revenant's prospects in a possible relegation scenario, because they are kind of leading in the pack for advance. They are top 5 currently right now, right behind Heart and Soul, GSG9, yeah, of course, and then GGPR, who's a pretty good team as well. But I'm excited to see what they have in store, because I feel like I've been seeing a whole lot of them in these Cash Cups specifically doing really well. I've watched a couple of their games. I've tried to catch some of the Cash Cups. I typically work on the weekends, so I can't make them all that often. But it's been really cool to see that team specifically have their success, and if they're being able to do, I mean, that sort of result, which is absolutely like that is a stomp. Like 16-4. You might have won a pistol round in a couple rounds after and got lucky with a double op setup once on CT side, so like that is really impressive. Of course, you fall to Pain Gaming after, but that's a whole nother like aspect as well.
Time. You give a team time. Give them some experience. The theme. It's gonna be the theme
Yeah.
all the time.
I agree.
Listen,
Yeah.
It's again, especially with these teams that are in the upper portion of advance, competing against these lower to mid tier MDL teams. The more time, the more experience you give them, especially these opportunities to play against the higher tier teams, because like I remember when, with our Brazilian lineup the year prior, like it was really difficult to get MDL teams to play against us, even though we were the top of, ESE advanced. I don't know if it was ego or they just thought like, no, we're so much better than you, like we're not going to scrim against you. I think that still goes on. Like nothing against the pro teams, but after one successful season of MDL, it was still like, should we play the Whalers? Should we not? For us to get those pro scrims. So like you have that happening from one tier to another. So these teams with these cash cups having these opportunities and getting the upsets, man, is time and confidence. Once you build up that confidence, and it's like it's not just in your mind, I think we're better, and then you proven like I am better. Like the next time you face them or another team in the same rank or whatever, or rank above, like like no, we should get this. So it's man, I've been loving these cash cups, man. I think it's great. I'm glad that they're happening more often, because it was only skins were the only things that they were doing on ESEA with those competitions there. So I'm glad Mythic really pushed it forward.
Yeah.
And FPL has really supported, and of course now ESEA kind of following suit as well, because they've seen the success of that with the Mythic Cup and stuff, and it's been great, so far throughout the summer and now into the fall. So it's what NA needs. It's exactly what NA needs.
An opportunity to make more money as an opportunity to make more money as like a 5-man roster, like, because at this point, of course, you can make an excuse of, like I don't have enough like money to commit my full, like, I've heard a lot of people compare MDL to like a 9-to-5 job, which is it can make sense for certain teams, but like the money's not always there for everybody. And so I feel like with these cash cups, if you really want to like put your like mind and heart to it, like you have a better opportunity now. Of course you're gonna have Triumph, who's gonna win most of these things, but you'll have an opportunity to try and play teams like that, even if it means you don't get to win. You have it's an open qualifier every weekend. It's been every weekend so far, like, and they've been multiple. Like we have 2 this week, the Cash Cup from ESEA, and then the Dust 2 Cup. Like it's like $6,000 in cash prizes for teams that anyone can sign up for. Like it's so good for North America.
Add in the open qualifiers for Beijing as well.
Yeah, that I'm excited for. Those results came through, and
Oh wait, back that up.
I
I have something to say. Right? Yeah.
Up. Go ahead.
I guess it doesn't really matter for the subtitles here, but no, I think the cash cups are great. However, I think that like from experience, and obviously a lot of this is biased as someone that has tried to run similar sort of things like
Mhm.
well into the past. I do think that the level of like success and exposure that we're seeing in the cash cups right now would not have been possible outside of like the current conditions that we're experiencing. I mean, previously, have tried running these events, have heard from various teams like, oh, why should I play? Like, I just know this team is going to win.
Yeah.
Or again, to your 9 to 5 sort of thing, it's like, well, like I work on the weekends, like, and I will make more than the cash cup, right? And which is all like they're all valid things, right? The cost of living in the United States versus a lot of these European countries, which has a thriving tier two, tier
Yeah,
three,
yeah. And
not just
orgs.
scene of teams, but orgs and cups and events aimed specifically like for those teams. Um, we just haven't really found a way to make that work over here. And so for a
Yeah.
long time, there was nothing in town except for ESEA and SIVO. SIVO kind of went away, and
Oh,
for a long time,
SIVO.
there was just, I know, they're going to
Rest in
throw.
peace. Rest in peace.
I'm old, man. I'm going to throw that at you. Uh,
Rest easy.
No, I'm
but
right
no,
there with
no,
you. I was part of the SIVO stuff, dude.
no, but I do think it's great, and I'm glad that they're happening and that teams are participating because it's a great opportunity at exposure for them. And again, to your earlier point, it's a great opportunity for even those teams that are gonna lose in the third, fourth, fifth round, whatever. Like
Mhm.
how often you're gonna get a chance to play against a triumph, a chaos, a whatever. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. That's you bring up like the difference between orgs and NA and EU, and I feel like it's an excuse for NA, of course, and it's one that I often think about is like the fact that you've got, and I don't know if this stat remains true, but a couple a couple weeks back this was certainly true, but nearly every single European team is backed up by an org that maybe not pays them. I don't know what the salaries are like. I have no idea. But
you're talking about an MDL
but
specifically,
yeah, an
or
MDL. Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
Nearly every single team is backed up by a org that can fund a salary, can fund in travel and things of that sort. Whereas North America, it's pretty few and far between for MDL.
I think this would, I mean, I'm sure Diego has fielded some RFPs from potential teams, and I'm sure he could talk to
Yeah.
the relative expectations of NA MDL teams versus European MDL teams.
Yeah, it's it's an interesting conversation because like the two regions are very different.
Yeah.
Esports are looked at very differently in both regions. It's still growing to be, I think, more widely accepted here in the United States as it is in Europe. Europe, it's been already something that's been accepted as a professional career,
Hmm.
right? I think here in NA we've had the support within the last 2 years because of the popularity with streamers and entertainers in the broadcast side of gaming.
Yeah.
So it's and also the game that is played as a professional in esports is going to be looked at differently here in the states, solely just because of opportunities with sponsorships or corporate partnerships with an esports org or with a player or a team. It's completely different just because of how certain games. So like for us, it's an FPS title. It's a realistic FPS title. Realistic being it represents firearms that are sold or used here in North America. Um, that's it has a negative stigma to it, unfortunately. So there needs to be a lot of education around that, and that's where I think in NA it fails. Is the education around like first gaming and then esports because everything again is just under the umbrella of gaming. But I think that's where the opportunity is missed here. With I would say let's go down just as far as semi-pro. So for MDL teams to be able to make a salary here. So a lot of players, I would say majority, are not supported by an organization. Here we are. I still consider us a tier 2 organization, just because of the size that we are. We're still only like we've minimized ourselves to only be involved in one esport, so we can support a good team and be relevant in this esports title for Counter Strike. Um, they have that opportunity. So a lot of organizations don't. Where I support that idea, as far as not a lot of players are being paid, is I really do not like the idea of the closet run organizations. You had that problem with Vero Pro in their last iteration, where they ended up getting a really great roster, and when it's time to move up, you can't do anything with the organization because the kid's underage. So granted, when I started the Whalers, I don't even remember how old I was. It was 27, 28 years old.
Mm.
Has it been that long?
It's not
3 years, 4
16.
years?
That's a bit of a
It
gap.
wasn't. I wasn't
Is that
16.
the story with
right?
Vero Pro? I've heard some stuff about that too.
I don't know the exact details. I'm pretty sure Joe knows probably a little bit more than I do, but it was something along those lines. It was
Yeah.
an underage kid that was basically running an organization. Which, hats off to you,
Yeah.
being able to get players to represent your brand in MDL at that and do well.
Right.
And they ended up, having the opportunity, but they couldn't. As far as the organization wise, the
Right.
players, because of that, it led to basically an implode, and then players go all over the place.
Yeah.
Some continued, in pairs or threes into other teams.
Mhm.
So I think that's super unfair to the players, because you're putting all your hopes and dreams into, like, I'm gonna play for this team forever. And that org, or that closet run org, probably is saying the same thing of, like, I'm gonna take care of you guys and so on and so forth. Where, like, my first step is I need to make my players happy, and I need to put my players first. So that means I'm going to drop literally all my other teams so I can support the CS team, which is exactly what we did. Within the past year and a half, we dropped all our other teams and just are running CS. So, yeah, I think it's 100% because of the region first, and because of it's an FPS title with, realistic weapons being depicted in a video game. Um, but it's also the companies and the brands that we potentially are looking for sponsorships. So the non-endemic brands, because obviously if you are anything within gaming, within the gaming industry, so count streaming in there as well, like, shooters are always going to be part of it. How big is Call of Duty? And every single year they create the buzz because the next Call of Duty is the best one, even though we've missed the
Right.
mark ever since Call of Duty 2.
Yeah.
We'll have that argument later. But yeah, the brands here in the United States, they're so specific. And then to extend that even further is, like, any other potential brands that you might want to work with like alcoholic beverages, or, within the past year and a half to 2 years, like cannabis brands, like, you're so restricted either within
Gambling brands.
yeah.
gambling as well. You're restricted, first within your state, and then federal restrictions. So, like,
Yeah.
alcoholic brands, like, you cannot have a sponsor with an alcoholic brands, unless you're unless, like, 3/4, I forget the exact number, but your number of your audience needs to be like 3/4 or above the legal drinking age. So, like, that's not really, like,
At
super
21
achievable in
in
gaming. Yeah. So,
North
like,
America, or at
if you're
least
FaZe, for example, FaZe is never going to have an alcoholic brand sponsor. Never going to happen, because they're never going to be able to stick to the federal guidelines to that. Like, Whalers, maybe. Like, I don't see us ever getting into Fortnite, so our age is going to stay, like, super, like, a lot higher than the average. So I think 21 plus is, I think, already our average. I think our average, like, as far as a fan base, and we're not big, um, barely 3,000 on Twitter, and we're, like, somewhere around, like, 30,000 on Facebook. It's always been our strongest platform. Our average age is, I think, like 22 or 23. But and then when you're putting that content out there, if you're going to do a live stream, it still needs to be 21 plus or something like that. So again, that's just one thing. Cannabis, like, don't even think about it. Like, sure, for us here in Massachusetts, it works because Massachusetts, it's legal, but in other states, it's not. So again, you're limited by those borders. So I wish more teams could be supported, because you'd see a lot more players dedicate their time into
Right.
it, and not just players, coaches as well. Coaches that do the right job, analysts that do their job correctly as well. It really does support teams, getting better
Yeah.
week by week and stuff like that. So EU does have that, but maybe NA will get there. Um, Education, more education within it, and I think that's on us as team owners first when we approach these brands, and I think that's been our step. So hopefully soon, like you'll even see us maturing with brands on our back and stuff like that,
Hmm.
even further supporting our teams and maybe some lower ranked teams and stuff like that.
I mean, you guys, and by that I mean Whalers, are at least doing well in the average player age category, which is mostly due to DJ and Ponalone really helping you out in that category, bringing you out to an average of 24 years old. Ancient.
Ancient for CS. Listen,
Ancient
I'm
for CS.
32. I'm 32, so they give me the boomer tag all the time as well, and I have my adult moments. But listen, I think it works for us. It may not be for everybody because I think what's been really great as far as the development of the team, it has been the experience. So it's the individual time that each player has that's been able to kind of pass along to the younger players. So I think for obviously most recent B Wills in our lineup since September, having older players that have been in the scene competitively, like, and also relevant in the scene. DJ's coming from CLG Academy. Pone is played with so many players, has experience enough and still relevant. Being able to put your experience literally in the hands of your younger teammate, so they don't have to go through all the BS and learn this. Is like, listen, you're gonna fail this smoke every single time if you do it this way. Just don't do it this way. I'm telling you, so you don't have to struggle for many matches and get Reddit clips made of NA smokes from B Will, like for any player of the Whaler, whatever it may be, or any player out there. Just do it. Like, that's, I think, the benefit. So yeah, for me as an owner as well, I really like working with these players because they are a little bit older. So having the a business talk here and there is a lot easier. They are mature. They do understand the business side of things as well, but at the same time, they're very more they're open to like having a little bit better of a working relationship with their teammates and also their org. So yeah, it's okay that they're older. It's okay. It's more
No,
relatable for me.
I'm on the worst side of 25, so
Go
it's
go.
okay. Yeah, not quite the 30 yet though. All right, Cole. I derailed your efforts to close the show with IEM Beijing, so
All good.
let's take it home.
All right. Yeah, that's the last little topic I have. I don't know how much you can speak on Beijing, at least, but for the open qualifiers, we've got both Rugrats and Mythic moving forward. That kind of best of three that we mentioned earlier against Rebirth and Rugrats, they 2-0 them in a pretty strong fashion, and then followed it up with another. Rebirth got slammed that night, but followed it up with another win in MDL. They made it look pretty easy. And so the two invited teams, at least on the website right now, are gonna be you all, the Whalers, but I think that might change. And then yeah, Gaming, um, those two, and then it'll be Mythic and Rugrats, who are the other
Rugrats.
two teams that made it through the qualifiers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I won't get a slap on the wrist of this because I wasn't told to say anything. But yeah, as NA is doing NA things and EG is going to be going over to EU for a while, so I do think that we actually have taken their spot for the main event. So that means a different team will get invited to the close qualifier. So I'm guessing it's going to be Pain. I really hope it's Pain because
Yeah.
it keeps it super competitive. But that also does leave it open for anybody else as far as going down the list on MDL. But I think they're going to go by rankings. So whatever NA rankings look at this point, like you could potentially go down the list and just pick one.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't be upset over that. So let me see here. Rebirth would be the next on the list if you're going to go on NA rankings, which uh, not upset of that. You
I'm
have a rank. I think it's good to respect the rankings, but it could potentially be Pain or Rebirth at this point.
I'm wondering
It,
if they'll do a match between the two losers of like a best of 3 match between Rebirth and I believe it was now Morning Light. It was previously Spring Roll in the
Spring Roll.
tournament, but they moved their org over to Morning Light now. So I'm wondering if IEM will, because there's still a week left until that kicks off.
Yeah, that's true.
So they could possibly do that. That's an option. I don't know. I'm sure they'll probably take the easiest route there.
yeah, just based off of how ESL usually does things, it's usually based on expediency. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them go either the pain route or the rank route. My preference would always be to go down the bracket and
Right.
see and let the best team see what it is. However, in this case, Rebirth also has rank and also would be kind of next in line there. So maybe that's a shortcut they can make there. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I think I just want to say I really enjoyed Rebirth's confidence coming to this qualifier. They tagged up as Rebirth goes to Beijing on the ESCA bracket for the event. So they fell short of that thus far, but maybe there's still a chance. And I will say that Spring Roll, I mean, obviously before they got signed by Warning Light, they actually did put up quite a good fight against Mythic, taking them to double digits on the first map, and then I believe single digits on the second, but certainly more competitive than you would have anticipated.
I'm with you. I think they should. I would like for them to just do like could even be a best of one actually.
Yeah.
Since both teams went 0-2 in their matchup for the qualifier to qualify in.
Yep.
I think that would be more than fair. It actually even gives Morning Light a chance because again, as far as rankings goes, um, they're not close as far as getting the next invite that way. But yeah, I'm with you. They should definitely do something just down the bracket. I think that's usually what they've done in the past. So it'll be quite interesting. The close qualifier is going to be, I think, a fun one to watch at least
Yeah.
because it's you got some good teams in there. It's not going to be boring. Again, you want to keep your eye out because even though it's NACS and whatever, there's still a Brazilian team there. All the friggin' South American fans are going to be cheering for to get through that. But like we spoke in the beginning of the podcast, Rugrats they have it in them. Mythic, the stream team, they know it. They call themselves. You can never sleep on them as well. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be a pretty good one. And it's just a win one best of 3 and qualify to the main event.
Right.
And it's a double elimination. So you have 2 chances to make it through, kind of thing. So it'll be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean it's what 4 hours of work to make it to a $70,000 event, right?
Yeah.
Like if I had any skills that would allow me to do such a thing, I'd be pretty excited about it. So if Diego, excited for you guys, wish you guys the best, and yeah, looking forward to some good CS coming out of both that close qualifier and the main event.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Well, that is all that we have for the first episode, the pilot of Dust 2. We'll be back next week, probably, with a new guest. Diego, thank you so much for joining us. I am Cole Exner McHenry. You can make sure to follow all of our Twitters on YouTube. Smash that subscribe and like button. And
wrong side over there.
what am I forgetting? What is there? Oh, yeah, follow Dust2. Is it dust2.us on Twitter?
I think there's no dots on Twitter, but yeah,
True.
Dust2US on Twitter. Yeah.
You guys can find our workaround, right? That's all I've got for you all tonight. Thank you again for Diego joining us here. Is it CEO of the Whalers? Founder?
CGO. I'm not really into titles.
Yeah.
Gaming officer.
That works.
But yeah, co-founder, myself and Devin, still running the whole thing. But yeah, appreciate the invite. Thank you guys, for all the support. It's been before all this. I know that we've been connected for a little while. Exner had the pleasure of meeting you as far as casting some of the Whalers games. It's
Yeah.
been fun. So yeah, I appreciate the invite. Hopefully come back for some more. Or maybe get some players over here and chat some games with you guys. Appreciate
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, I will see you.